All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how we can use multiple threads to make our scripts run faster. So as an example of this, well, we'll be using Google Colab, and that's what's going to allow us to do this multiple threading. But I'm going to be using the script, and I'm going to have a video. I'm going to link to that with more detailed explanation of what's going on here in this particular script. I'm just going to go over this right now because as of right now, it doesn't really matter exactly what every line of the script does. What we're going to concentrate on is how we're going to make this a lot faster. So what this script is doing, it's taking this spreadsheet in Google Sheets, which has all of these wraps and their sales, about, as you can see, 4,000 line of those. And then it's splitting that to different Google Sheets files, and every sales rep gets its own basically spreadsheet with their own data. And all of that is being saved to our Google Drive folder right here. So as of right now, see, this is just our regular standard Google authorization stuff. Then we basically connect to that spreadsheet over here, and then we connect to that worksheet sales data, which is this one right here. Then we just read that data to a data frame in this line. And once we read that data to a data frame, which is going to be all of this data right here, we then move on to getting a nice unique list of salespeople by running these two lines over here. So that gets the column. This just gets a unique list, and it saves it in this variable unique salespeople. And then we have this function that we've created, and that's Python's way to create a function with this def. In other languages, you would have like function here, like JavaScript here. In Python, they have this weird way of creating functions, def. So anyways, that's the function. It accepts a sales rep, and it does all these things in the function, that it creates a new spreadsheet. It basically filters this data we have on top from this data frame to that particular salesperson. Then it renames the worksheet, puts the data in there, saves the data. Basically, that's what this function does, this create spreadsheet function. Now, once we have that function, then we do this loop. We'll loop through this unique salespeople list that's created on top. And every time in this for loop, we'll loop through it, we'll run that create spreadsheet function with that person's name. And we basically go filter that data to that person, and we create a whole new spreadsheet here in this drive. So right now, if we just check how long this takes to do this, I'm just gonna go here. Let's just make sure I ran all these lines. I don't exactly remember. So I'm gonna run this few lines to get all of that in. And this, at this point, should start creating all of those spreadsheets. So that's gonna be the slow step. So I'm gonna click on this, and we'll see about how long it takes to build all of these. So that took quite a bit of time. I would say at least a minute, probably longer than that. So you can see all of these spreadsheets now created in this folder, and that's pretty much what we got. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to make this whole process a lot faster. Let me just get rid of all of these. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import threading from Python to make this thing work faster. So I'll go on top here before this, and we'll import threading. We don't have to install this because this is one of the internal Python packages we have. So that should be this import right here. And we could have done this in a separate block, I guess, and let's do that. Let me move this down here and put this import on top and run that. So now that we have that threading installed, what it basically allows you to do, it allows you to basically run different functions and basically just run them together in multiple threads instead of waiting for one to finish before you can run the next one. So in this for loop, the basic way this runs, it just runs this function for one of the salespeople. And then when it's done, then it runs the next time to create the next one. So with threading, we're going to be able to just run all of those without having to wait for one of them to finish. And that way, we should be able to finish this faster. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to comment this out. And what threading allows you to do, which is this thing we imported, it allows you to do this constructor, I guess, that's what we call it. It's a class. And see, these are arguments we have to pass to it. So one of the things is the target function we're going to have to run. So for that, see, there is this named argument. So we're going to do target equals to, and then we basically will pass the function we want to run. And the function is going to be this function, create spreadsheet. Now, the thing with our function is that our function here accepts arguments. So if you didn't have any arguments, that you could have just ran it like this. But we need to pass arguments to this create spreadsheet function. In our case, it's just one argument, the sales rep. And to be able to do that, I'm going to do a comma here and see there is this args, what seems to accept a tuple here. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do args. It's kind of weird here. You have to do the tuple thing. And the weird part of this is not really that, is that you're going to pass a second empty argument here. So what we're going to do, we're going to pass that sales rep, which was the argument C we're passing here. And then we're going to do comma and pass an empty second thing in this tuple. So this will basically create the thread. To run it, you need to do this method dot start to make that happen. So after that, I'm going to do dot start to actually run that. And that will basically just run this function with this argument, and it will not wait for this one to finish. It will run the next one and the next one. And that way it will be like similar to us running all of them at the same time. So hopefully that will make the whole thing a lot faster, right? So let's try to test this and see the difference in time. This compared to our previous code we had before. So I'm just going to take this. This I already ran. The rest I already ran on top. So I'm just going to run this part. Okay, so that was pretty fast. So as you can see, that created all of these spreadsheets a lot faster compared to the other one. And that was because of us running this with this threading system when we run a lot of these at the same time. Now, when you run this threading system, sometimes you may want to have some sort of confirmation that has finished doing this, because when I clicked on this run button, it just immediately stopped. So even though it immediately stops, it doesn't mean that it's done doing it. It's still working on the process of running all of those threads. So one way to have some sort of confirmation that it's over is to basically store the list of threads in some sort of list. And then there's this join method that basically will get you to know when this is done. So to show you that, let's just go above this for loop and create a list. So that's what I'm going to call this list, and it's going to be an empty list. So what I'm going to do here, instead of just running the start method right on this, I'm going to first assign this to a variable. I'll call that t. And then we'll take that t and we'll add it to this list of threads. So we'll do this and do append that t. And then after we append it to the list, we can then do start to run that thread. So this way we'll have access to all of these threads Now that's going to be a whole list of threads. And because it's a list of threads, we're going to loop through that list again. So I'm going to go below and create another for loop. And then I'm going to say for each TR, I guess, short for thread in that list, we're going to take each one of those threads and we're going to run this method join. And that TR is basically going to be one of these T's that we store in this thread list. And at that point, we can hopefully say that that thing is done. So I'll just do a print finished, something like that. So let's try to rerun this with this and see what happens. Here's the folder. Let's try to run this and see what we get. It seems like we're getting some errors here. And it seems some sort of usage limit error. So what seems to happen, some of those were created this time, but then we hit a roadblock because we hit some sort of rate limit for our API calls. So it looked like it created about 11 files here. Let's just remove this, go back, and let's just run this for about 10. Let's see what we get. So this is the full list, unique salespeople. Just to refresh your memory what's going on here, if we just look inside of this unique salespeople, that's basically a list of all of these people. And we should be able to just look at some of it. So if I wanted to get the first 10, I should be able to do this and see I got the first 10. So I'm going to do that in here. Let's just run this for the first 10 only, instead of doing it for the full list for the time being. So instead of the whole unique salespeople, I'll just get the first 10. So let's run this and see if that still gets us an error. So see, now we can wait and get the confirmation that this is done. So this should be done for these files. So let's go check it out. So this 10 was within the limit, apparently. So it seems like we have some sort of rate limit for our API. And if we try to spin too many threads, we basically hit a limitation and then it stops running. So maybe we should be running this in batches instead of just trying to run the whole thing. So we could, for example, run the first 10 as a batch and then run the next 10 and the next 10. And that way we will speed this up, but at the same time, hopefully we will not hit the rate limit. And to do that, we need to do some sort of loop to get probably the first 10, then the next 10, then the next 10 after that, something like that. So let's see how we're going to be able to do that. So first, I'm going to just take all of this, whatever we have here, that runs a batch of 10, and create a function out of this. So I'm going to do a new function. And I'm going to tab this in to make this a part of this function. So here, as an argument for this function, we're going to give it the starting point and the ending point. See, this 0, 10, that part. So I'm just going to go here and do SE as arguments here, start and end. And then I'm going to put those right in here. And then if we just wanted to run the first 10, we should be able to do something like 0, 10, hopefully. And that should run the first 10. So just to test this, let's just create this, run this. And now this is empty. Let's just run 0 to 10, just like this. So that should create 10 files for us. Seems done. Let's go take a look. All right, that looks like 10 of them. That's good. I'm going to remove this. Let's go back to that. So now we need to figure out how we're going to run all of them with these batches. So we basically need to run 0 to 10, and then we need to run the next batch. So basically at that point, we're going to need to start from 10 to 20 probably, and then keep going like this until we get through all of the names in the list. So let's take a look at this unique salespeople variable right in here and see how we can make that happen. So for example, if we do, well, first of all, let's just take a look at the list. So the list is this. So let me just open another block of code so we can see this list while I'm doing this. So if I do C0 to 10, that gets me from Perennial to Tony. That's from here up to here. And then we should have Jesse Woods as the next one. So if I do 10, 20, see, it starts from Jesse Woods and it goes to this, which is this one. And then we need this, which is going to be, well, I want to see what happens if we do like 20 to 30, even though there is no 30. So that still gets us this. So even if we go over that limit, it's going to be fine. So we can go 0, 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, and so on. So now that we know that, let's create a loop. So we're going to do a for loop, and I'm going to do a variable, I, and we're going to do it in a range. And this range in Python can accept start and stop point and a step. So for example, I'm going to do 0 as a starting point, and let's do 30, for example, as an ending point, and comma and 10 as a step. Well, let's not do the 10 as a step for a second so we can see what happens here. So I'm just going to do this and do print that I, so you can see what happens here. Basically, we're looping through this range of numbers from 0 through 30, and we're basically giving each iteration this variable I. So you can see how it started from 0 and went until 29, 30 not included. So now if I do step 2 as another argument here and run this, see it goes 0, 2, 4, 6, instead of going 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're skipping 1. So we're doing step 2. Now if I do step 10, see we go 0, 10, 20, which if you remember what I was trying to do here, I was trying to do 0 for the first argument, and then 10, see, and then 20, another batch. So basically we need to do 0, 10, 20, something like this. So we have that 0, 10, 20 here. And if we wanted to get this 10, 20, 30, then we can simply just take this I and add 10 to it. So if I run this, well, maybe I should just print this right in here in the same print statement so it's easier to see. See 0, 10, 10, 20, 20, 30. So now we need to just figure out how do we dynamically get this 30 number, what number we have to go up to. And we should be able to do that by just getting the number of items in this list. So if I just do, see, unique salespeople and just put it inside of this count, or actually in Python, I believe that's len, not count. That should count how many items we have in that list, and that should go from 0 up to that number. So now I've created a loop that will basically let us loop through this list of people and then give us this dynamic 0, 10, 10, 20, 20, 30 numbers. Well, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this. And all I need to do right now, instead of this print statement, I'm going to try to run this batch. I'm going to take that function, put it in here. Instead of this 0, we're going to do the I. Instead of this 10, we're going to do I plus 10. Remove this block too. So let's try this and see what happens. Hopefully what's going to happen, we'll run it in a batch of 10. So we'll run 10. Hopefully that will let us avoid the limit and run the next 10, the next 10. So let's try this. There we have it. It seems like all of it is finished. Now let's go take a look. So you can see we were able to run this. We couldn't run all of it at the same time because we had some sort of rate limitation, but we were able to run it in these batches of 10, and that significantly improved the time we spent compared to what it was before. And that should show you how we can use threading to significantly improve the productivity here by being able to run these batches at the same time instead of running each individual file one by one. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.